Today we will have an unusual case for Japanese crime, because it is rare that such a high-profile incident ends without any casualties at all. And if you too are now cautiously walking around concert halls and shopping malls, you will perfectly understand the Japanese victims of this case. Let's dive into the Tokyo Joker case together.
Strange stories.
Today's story took place in Tokyo. Despite the fact that people here are quite polite and Japan is considered one of the safest countries, when things get complicated and there is some kind of crime, every case seems a little out of line. And it just so happens that Tokyo is the largest city in the world. It's home to over 38 million people. As you might guess, this results in an extremely high population density. Hundreds of skyscrapers are packed to the brim with very small apartments to satisfy extremely high demand. And because many people commute here for work, the streets are often overcrowded. More importantly, the trains, although Tokyo has one of the most advanced and efficient subway systems in the world, it still suffers from overcrowding at peak times. But work is a big part of Japanese people's lives. In fact, all Japanese people take work very seriously. People often work at night to keep their bosses happy, and this unhealthy balance between personal lives often leads to mental health problems. In fact, this situation is so common that the Japanese have coined a term for death from overwork at work. It's called karoshi. Many cases in this country come from a lack of love, work, or self-fulfillment, which often makes people feel like failures. And while the main character in our story today had a relatively happy life, at one point he broke down, and it led to simply terrible consequences. October 31st, 2021. Halloween in Tokyo is an event, especially in busy neighborhoods like Shibuya. Crowds of people dress up in costumes and enjoy a night of partying, drinking, and strolling the streets, feeling the holiday spirit. Japanese culture is pretty low-key, but if you ever find yourself in a rowdy Shibuya crowd on Halloween, you'll quickly realize that there are exceptions. Since it's not illegal to drink alcohol on the street in Japan, the festivities here can get pretty rowdy. Along with Tokyo's vibrant neighborhoods, there are many subway lines to the center, one of them being the Keio line, which connects all of Tokyo's neighborhoods. First of all, Shinjuku and Shibuya, and it is on this busy line on Halloween at about 8 p.m. On the train going to the side of Shinjuku, there was a horrifying situation. An unremarkable man impersonating the Joker from the Batman universe entered the subway car. Unremarkable because it was Halloween, and the subway was full of people in masquerade outfits. Dressed in a dark purple suit and green shirt, he decided to go without makeup this time. The train was mostly full and events took a dramatic turn. Sitting casually on the train, a man in a purple suit jumped up from his seat and pulled a vial of poison out of his pocket and sprayed it in the face of an elderly man sitting next to him. Immediately after, the Tokyo Joker pulled out a large knife from under his jacket, plunging it into the man's chest. He turned his attention to the other passengers on the train. The incident happened so quickly that the other people didn't even have time to comprehend what they were seeing, and some even thought it might be a Halloween prank. But after the Joker started waving the knife around, they realized that this was really serious, and they must not be messing around right now. The passengers started running away, and a moment later, the Joker was already running along the train to the next car filled with people. There, the man took out a plastic bottle hidden under his jacket and began to spill the liquid all over the carriage, focusing mainly on the passengers. A distinct smell of gasoline immediately appeared in the air. The frightened passengers hurriedly left the carriage, running to other parts of the train to avoid a confrontation with the madman. Fortunately, most of them managed to escape before the Joker-like man struck a match and set the carriage on fire. And set the car on fire. Good thing the train was in the right place and stopped after the fire broke out, allowing those inside to open the windows and escape. Emergency services were called immediately after the incident. Police, ambulance, and firefighters rushed to the scene and arrived within minutes. Fortunately, they were able to apprehend the attacker. Thanks to the large number of witnesses, news of the incident spread quickly, attracting the attention of the media, who immediately converged on the station. The perpetrator, identified as 24-year-old Kyota Hattori, quickly earned the nickname Tokyo Joker. Soon after his name became public, various rumors began to circulate about him. Some claimed that he was abandoned by his family as a child, that he was raised in an orphanage, and there were even whispers that his father had ties to the Yakuza. However, after investigation, it turned out that all these rumors have nothing to do with reality. Kyota grew up in a stable family, but as a child, his parents divorced, and he was left to live with his mother and younger sister in an apartment in the countryside. During the investigation, neighbors were interviewed, and based on their memories, Kyota was described as an obedient child who never called attention to himself for misbehavior and never seemed to get into trouble. They were shocked to learn that he was behind the recent incident on the subway, so Kyota didn't stand out much. But he was a normal kid nonetheless. He graduated high school with average grades, and as he claimed, he didn't have many friends there. Kyota was a typical teenager, passionate about video games, manga, anime, and American comics, which was reflected in his choice of clothing. After graduating from high school, he continued to live with his mother and got a job at a manga and comic book cafe. It was a place where customers could drink coffee and read for free, which suited the guy's interests. However, the job didn't work out. A girl came into the cafe one day and accused him of voyeurism, the practice of men sneaking inappropriate photos under girls' skirts. Despite the fact that camera sound cannot be muted on almost all phones in Japan to prevent such incidents, Kyota was arrested. Later, when the surveillance cameras and the circumstances of the case were checked, the charges were dropped. That, however, did not convince the bosses of the coffee shop to return the guy to work. They still fired him. However, this setback didn't stop 18-year-old Kyota from looking for new opportunities. After a few weeks of searching, he found a new job. Despite his eccentricity, Kyota was popular there. He was considered intelligent, polite, and dedicated to his work. His personal life also seemed normal, as he was in a loving relationship from 2017 to 2021. The couple often shared pictures on social media, showing how much they loved each other. But unfortunately, after 4 years together, their relationship started to get worse, which led to their termination. This breakup and job loss hit Kyota hard, and he felt lonely, depressed, and broken. Feeling that after these upheavals, his life had somehow gotten worse, Kyota decided to travel the country and ended up in Tokyo in September 2021, perhaps in search of a new beginning. Unfortunately, the young man found no solace while traveling. As his mental state deteriorated, he began to be visited by detrimental thoughts. Losing his girlfriend and job, feeling disconnected from his family, and being in an unfamiliar environment all contributed to his deepening depression and led him to dark thoughts. On Halloween 2021, around 5 p.m., Kyota left his hotel room and went wandering the bustling streets of Tokyo. He explored different neighborhoods, looking for a suitable place to carry out his disturbing plans. Shibuya, known for its crowded intersections and festive atmosphere, seemed like the perfect place for him. One tourist even filmed Kyota wandering the crowded streets in anticipation. However, he decided to give up on Shibuya. The guy decided he needed a place where people couldn't escape so easily. After studying the Shibuya, Kyota returned to the station, boarded the Keio line, and traveled to Kakabunji Station, where he carried out his attack. When the passengers scattered and he was alone in the carriage, Kyota calmly sat down, lit a cigarette, and waited calmly for the authorities to arrive. At first, it was unknown how many people were injured by Kyota's actions. Fortunately for the quick reaction of the train driver, witnesses, police, and medical personnel, there were no casualties. Kyota had not taken many things with him, and fortunately, he was not a very good arsonist either, making him a dubious criminal. Although the elderly man sitting next to him was seriously injured, he surprisingly made a full recovery, with 17 other people suffering minor injuries. After surrendering, Kyota surprisingly cooperated with the police. He claimed he was inspired by scenes from the movie The Joker and said he wanted to dress up as the villain to better fit the role. When questioned by the authorities, he explained that he was very upset and angry when he found out that his ex-girlfriend had gotten married only 6 months after their breakup, and he also lost his job. After these events, he felt worthless and ashamed, especially as a Japanese man. He felt that there was no positivity left in his life and thought the death penalty was the only way out. But because he hadn't actually taken anyone's life, the death penalty wasn't an option, and it put him in a difficult position. Although one man was badly injured in the end, he eventually made a full recovery. After his arrest, Kyota underwent rigorous psychological testing for 3 months to assess his mental state and degree of culpability. It was found that he was aware of the consequences of his actions and had been planning the attack for months. However, the judge noted that the attack was careless. The perpetrator had no specific goal, and the attack affected all passengers, and psychologists suggested that Kyota may have been influenced by the Joker character, showing disregard for human life. The trial officially began on June 26, 2023. The prosecution demanded that he be sentenced to 25 years in prison for attempted murder, emphasizing the premeditated nature of the attack, as Kyota chose a high-speed train so that the victims would not be able to escape so easily. Kyota's defense pushed for a 12-year sentence, arguing that he did not intend to harm multiple people because most of the passengers were at a safe distance from him at the time of the attack. However, on July 31, 2023, Kyota was found guilty of multiple counts of attempted murder and sentenced to 23 years in prison. Because of this incident, additional security measures, including security cameras on trains, were put in place to combat such attacks. During sentencing, the judge urged Kyota to reflect on his actions, to think about his victims, and how he will re-enter the society in the future. After his sentence, the victims also told their stories. Many victims, even those who were just on the subway that day, still avoid trains because of post-traumatic stress disorder, and they are understandable. After recent events, you yourself are wary of walking through shopping malls, reacting to literally every rustle,